I'm Juanita Young Currie, graduated Merrill in 1964. Mr. Jordan was our principal. My brother also attended Merrill. He was in the class of 65.
I'm Jacqueline Ross Brown. I graduated in 1965. Mr. M.D. Jordan was the principal. My brother attended Merrill. He was in the class of 63. My uncle attended Merrill, and he was in a class that I cannot recall. 52? He also was a 52. He was in the class of 52. He also was a teacher at Merrill.
My name is Clayron Raspberry. I attended Merrill in 1960, graduated in 1964, came here in 57. And I didn't play any sports. I worked for Mr. Smith in the concession stand where I had a whole lot of fun. And I retired from the state. I spent a little time in the military. And all I do now is enjoy life, RVing and fishing and hunting and traveling.
My name is Gaye Sandra Moore Wilson, and I also finished Merrill in 1964. And Mr. Jordan was the principal, of course. And then, and I had two brothers, Andre and Barry, that also attended Merrill. Andre finished in probably 59 and Barry in 61. So I'm just glad to be their little sister, Gaye.
Now, while I was at Merrill, I came to Merrill in 61. I only went there 3 years. The first year was just a major adjustment to public school. I was like a deer in headlights. I didn't know what to expect, what to do, and all that. So I was just kind of following. The next year, in my 11th junior year, I was in the camera club, and I think I was in the French club, Honor Society. Oh, and worked on the annual. That just came to me, worked on the annual. And that's about it. I was just busy trying to live a public school life, go to everything that they had. My mother used to say, you think every time they open the door, you're supposed to be there. I was just trying to just enjoy and grab it all. And so that was pretty much it for me. My favorite class was probably biology because I had taken Latin at St. Peter at Catholic school. And Jewel Wadley, who was the biology teacher, used to throw around a whole lot of Latin words because everything was, the order and the species and all this. And I said, you're not the only one who can speak Latin. And so she just hooked me into biology, and I stayed with it, got a degree in biology later on.
So I came to Merrill in 7th grade. The interesting thing about Merrill is that it was a junior-senior high school. So we kind of came as little bitty people, 11, 12, 13 years old, and finished as young adults, 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. So that was an interesting concept, even to look at the pictures now and see the growth from when you were in 7th grade to 12th grade. I found Merrill to be just overwhelming as a young 7th grader because I didn't mention that I had a cousin and an aunt, 2 cousins and an aunt that had already finished Merrill. So now seeing some of the people that they knew that were stars, that were football players, that were young ladies that were just gorgeous and beautiful, the homecoming queens and all of that was just overwhelming for me. I loved most of my teachers. I have to say all of my teachers, just because they were so nurturing but exacting, nurturing but demanding regarding our success and the things that we need to do. My favorite class actually was English. And I'm just going to assume that it was English because at home you had to speak proper English. You could not put at the end of a conversation. You couldn't say ain't and all those kinds of words. So I absolutely loved English. And although I didn't major in English in college. That was my minor though. Let me see, what else can I say about school? I participated in the French club. Don't know why. I think the only thing I ever learned to do in French was to count from 1 to 10. I was in the camera club. I played clarinet in the band. I was in student council. And I found all those activities very, very interesting and calming. So I guess that's all I can think of at this point. But I really enjoyed the growth. I'm going to call it the growth spurt physically, the growth spurt academically. Our teachers actually had higher education, advanced degrees, and that was almost unheard of back in the late 50s, early 60s. So we were exposed to academic rigor. We were exposed to astuteness and discernment. There were just great expectations. There were things outside of us that certainly we were not aware of, that we would face in life, that our teachers were aware of. And their goal was to prepare us for life in, at that time, a very segregated type of situation. And it became generational. It didn't just touch us, it touched our children as we became parents.
One thing that Merrill did, it prepared me for the world, and I didn't even know it. I got drafted in the military, and I didn't realize that I was smart. And I talked to Juanita about that, I believe it was, and she said, "You went to Merrill." Everybody went to Merrill was smart. So I ended up doing things I didn't even know that I could do. And I definitely appreciate Merrill for that.
I was trying to think of the organizations I belonged to, and I think it was all of the above, you know. It was band, it was choir, it was student council, honor society, and I mean, it was just so many things. Whatever they had to offer, I was just glad to be a part of it. I'm just so appreciative to Ms. Phillips, my guidance counselor, and to Mr. Jordan, and to my mom. My mom was a teacher here. And they made some great decisions for me that I didn't even know about. For example, I had the possibility to go to Spelman College from my junior year and skip my senior year. But, you know, they made a decision that I was too young. I was already young. And it was no sense in doing that. And so I didn't know anything about that until the decision was made. And it took years of life to understand that that was out of love, that they're saying, we're watching out for you. And there have been some wonderful things that have happened. And I started teaching. I taught French and English in high school for just a few years. Then I was hired by Southwestern Bell. And I started with Southwestern Bell in Little Rock and worked with them for a while. The biggest part of it was, while I was with that company, I traveled to every continent with the exception of Australia. I lived in St. Louis, San Antonio, Dallas, then Atlanta. But, you know, the exposure through all of that, I just still look back to Merrill High School and what it prepared me for in life. And so thankful for that. And even as a retired person, I just still look back and say, thank you so much.
I left Arkansas A&M, went to work because I got tired of school, and I got drafted. I was in intelligence for all the time until I went to Vietnam. And I did a lot of traveling. Ethiopia was the best place in the world you ever want to stay.
Wow.
I loved Ethiopia. If I ever had a chance to go back, that's where I would go. But the military and Merrill High School prepared me for the world, and I have been very successful, which I never thought would happen in my lifetime. And I contribute all that to Merrill and AM&N, which I was in the last class to graduate. Now it's UAPB.
I did not realize that was not happening everywhere else. And what I try to tell the young people that come through here, we have some pictures in one of the rooms where there are students that are barefooted. And I try to tell them that they came to school. They may have carried their shoes because they were walking through mud, but they didn't let that stop them from going to school. Or the parents didn't let that stop them. When we were getting those old textbooks, you know, that we used to put the paper sack covers on and everything. See, there was a law on the books, and it may still be on the book, that says that Negroes could not get textbooks until they had been used 5 years in the white schools. And that stayed, I think it's still somewhere buried down, but it never was removed. They adjusted it, I think, with Brown versus Board of Education. But anyway, our teachers went north during the summers. They went to Ohio and Michigan and everything to summer school. And what I would tell the kids, math is still math. 2 + 2 is still 4. The body parts are still the same. That doesn't change. The thing that changes, like now, is history and geography. When you have the wars and the geography, they take over. And those are the things that our teachers went and learned about and came back and taught us, so that we were on par with everybody else. Not just Merrill teachers, the Black teachers did that.
Black teachers.
And that was part of a way to level the playing field as best we could. The globes that we had were outdated. The maps that we had became obsolete really quickly, especially with Vietnam and some of those things that were happening in Asia, Europe, and everything. But our teachers kept us on top of that so we knew what was going on. And I just took for granted. We were in a segregated situation in the 50s, 60s. We were also, our age group, was at the period where turmoil was going on in Pine Bluff, in the country, doing integration and everything. And within a couple of years is when they, 70, when they closed Merrill School down and combined it. We benefited a lot on things that we didn't understand the importance of.
At that point, right.
That what they say, youth is wasted on the young. Some parts of youth was wasted that we didn't understand.
Not only did we have our teachers here, we lived in the neighborhood with our teachers. They went to church with us.
The village.
We didn't necessarily appreciate that.
That's right.
But as you mature, as you get older, you appreciate all of those issues that you go through. When you think about the Miss Holliday and the Miss Lovelace and Miss Watley and McPherson and all of those.
And your uncle.
My uncle, whose class I did everything I could to stand up.
Everybody loved him.
Yeah, we were just exceptionally fortunate to have what we had that we didn't know at that particular time. And as I said before, that has now spread into our children and their children. When I left Merrill, of course, I went to AM&N, spent should have been 4 years, but because I had an uncle that was a teacher here, in 3.5 years, I was done because he pushed, you can take more than 15 hours. You can take the maximum number. So after 3.5 years, I graduated and the next month left Pine Bluff, thinking that there was no opportunity here. I left Pine Bluff, I went to Buffalo, New York, where I remained for 55 years, actually. There I completed 3 masters and began work on my PhD, which I never finished, but I did get some time in there. I worked in social work and mental health for many, many years, eventually leaving there and going into education, into the school system, knowing that I did not want to teach because of the student teaching that I had done while I was at AM&N. And when I say that, one of the reasons I think that I did not have a wonderful time with student teaching is because when I came back to Merrill to do student teaching, the kids knew me, so it wasn't like, it was just one of the old folks coming back here doing some student teaching. But anyway, I knew I did not want to teach. So I worked with special ed students in counseling. And from there, he became an administrator in the school system, where I actually took that school district. We went from a district school and busing school to open enrollment using paper. So I worked with the district and took us into the technological age, and I became a district that had magnet schools that were for gifted and talented. I worked with the district with setting all of this up. And I actually was only with the school district for 23 years and left there and became a full-time pastor for 11 years. All of that, and I talked to people about Merrill all along the way with everything that I did. I talked about Merrill High School. My kids could probably sit in this seat and talk about Merrill High School in the way that I'm doing. And now I am happily retired, happily retired with grandchildren, and just recently became a great grandmother. So I'm loving where I'm sitting now. And still remembering Merrill High School teachers and principals.
Merrill School was so outstanding. Although we did not have a dormitory on campus, students came from other cities
Yes.
to go to school here because where they lived, they didn't have a high school. Education stopped in the 8th grade or 6th grade. So a lot of people came here and lived with families to go to school here. And Merrill was the only school at that time that was accredited, and we were accredited by North Central 4 years before AM&N. So, and that was under the leadership of Mr. Cheney and Mr. Jordan. Merrill had 22 teachers with master's degrees. They had more master's degrees than any school, black or white, in the city. And when they opened Southeast, every teacher that they moved to Southeast, which was also the black school on the east side of town, had master's degrees. They didn't have a teacher on their campus that didn't have a master's. Although they pulled all of the east side kids to Southeast, that dropped their enrollment, but within 3 or 4 years, Merrill's enrollment was back up. And I think when we were here, it was 400 or 500 kids here. We were trailblazers. Merrill was a trailblazer in more ways than one. It just was. It was like a little junior university. I'm just proud to be a part of it.
I am learning so much about Merrill. You know, I knew it was outstanding. And I knew the faculty, the staff were just outstanding people that cared so very much, but not only cared, they were outstanding in the way that they taught us to be ready for college, to be ready for life. And right now, I'm just sitting here being prouder of Merrill than I ever have. You know, I just didn't give it the credit for my life the way I will do for the rest of my life.
When I left, I left a segregated situation, not only in high school, but in college. I left, like I said, 1 month from graduating AM&N. I walked into an integrated world.
Me too, yeah.
You know, where in many instances, I was the only Black, but I held my own. I felt confident in what I knew and what I had learned. I not only felt confident academically and intellectually, I felt confident with compassion for others, being able to speak up for myself, being able to let people know that I was in the room, because many times people looked at my complexion and decided that I was one of them. And I was very clear on who I was and where I had come from.
I went in the Marine Corps, and we learned from day one, there was only one color, and that was green.
Wow.
That was the color of our uniform. So we had to adjust. I did not run into no problems, black or white, because we had to be as one to protect ourselves and our friends. So that's one problem I never did have. I had it here in Pine Bluff, but not when I left. I didn't have no problems like that.
I'm just glad their time to visit Pine Bluff coincided with scheduling for this, so that they were able to participate.
Yeah, it's been exciting for me to be here and be a part of this. I didn't even think coming here today.
She said, she thought it was going to be just our class. I thought, no, this is Merrill, Victor Merrill.
So this is exciting what you have done here, you and all of those who have worked with you to put this museum together. And it just, it touches my heart that this will be remembered.